All right. Welcome to Dreamwalker week 3. This week, we're going to be exploring the archetype of the sage, and we're going to be focusing on dream interpretation and interpreting dreams for ourselves, interpreting dreams for others, and also interpreting dreams in groups, and some do's and don'ts. Some subtle adjustments we might be able to make to our approach in interpreting dreams so that we can really respect the sovereignty of the dreamer and the dreamer's own inner wisdom of the meaning of their dream. So we're going to start with some check-ins. Please feel free to bring a virtual talking piece. If you're new this week, I know Sharon's here. Welcome, Sharon. We have a virtual talking piece that we pass into the center of the circle when we're done speaking and we're ready for someone else to pick it up. And you can choose anything in your environment for that talking piece to be just as a symbol of listening and speaking. So today I have Penny the Red Fox, who is my traveling companion while I travel. She's very sweet and very soft, and she's a great listener. So good reminder. And also, if you have your journal or if you have your computer, where you're keeping your notes for Dreamwalker, if you can bring that would be great. We are going to be doing some more writing today. I know last week we talked about the scribe and writing, and I'm really curious how that went for everyone. So we're going to start with some check-ins. We'll pass the talking piece into the center of the circle and just check in. How's your week been going? How's your dream life this week? I know for me, I just traveled and I actually hardly slept last night because I stayed at my sister's and she has a little baby and the baby was crying all night long. And I thought, well, isn't that funny to step into Dreamwalker pretty sleep deprived, but also perfect again, because there's no right way to have a dream practice. It fluctuates over time, but to have show up for the regular practice anyways, even when those sleep or dreaming is fluctuating, is important. So yeah, if you'd like to check in, we have our top 3 feelings in the chat. And if you'd like to check in on how your scribe week went, I know some of the missions for last week were to practice the 4 R's of dream recall, which is to relax, remember, record, and revisit. To record at least one dream in your dream journal records last week. And then some fun things like going on synchronicity walks or revisiting old dream journals as oracles, and sharing a dream in our group. So I wonder how that week went. Did anyone do the missions? What did you notice about the scribe archetype last week? And anything else? Yep. I'm going to go ahead and pass that piece in the center if you'd like to check in. Here it is. Here's Penny.
I'll pick it up first. I've got a piece of carnelian here. This week was awesome. I cut back significantly on cannabis. That was my intention, and I did it. It was a little difficult the first couple days, but afterward it was just really exciting. I looked forward to going to sleep every night, and the dreams just came back full force. And yeah, I really hit on all the R's. I really was revisiting my dreams today, and yeah, a bunch of weird stuff. And it's actually really funny because I record my dreams on the recorder when I'm still sleeping. Basically, I'm like half sleeping still. And there's so many little details that come up in those moments right when I'm waking up that I forget throughout the day. And then when I revisit, I'm like, whoa, okay, that was a detail that I totally forgot about. So that was really cool to start to revisit some of the dreams. And yeah, I had a synchronicity walk today while I was at Lowe's. And that was pretty cool because just like words were shooting out at me, you know, like I remember a couple of them. Like there was one ad thing that said like revolution, and then there was another one that said professional, and there was, one more is like fulfillment. Like those three words like really stood out to me while I was walking around. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna be here. I might as well just see what pops out. And yeah, really great week overall. So happy to be here and be checking in with everybody. So I'll pass my carnelian back in.
Thank you, Morgan. Oh, passing it to Nicole.
I'm grabbing it. It's my cell phone for right now. I'll find something else. So I have a question. I did a synchronicity walk, and I noticed that like there were certain biases that started popping up. I'm like, no, that message isn't actually for me. Or, oh, that's exactly right. That message is the one, right? And so when you're doing a synchronicity walk, like how do you navigate biases that might pop up?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's similar in divination, right? Especially when, like, if you read tarot, if you're reading for yourself, like, how do you not have the implicit bias or wishful thinking to project onto that what it is, right? But at the same time, my mom put it to me once really beautifully. She said, it's not in the vision you have itself, it's in your relationship with the vision where you find the medicine. And part of where part of it is you can't get it wrong. It's it's your choice. If like it could be part of the synchronicity message for you was a teaching about implicit bias. I don't know what your question was, but that feeling coming up with for you is part of it. So not to get too meta, but I notice this in tarot as well, where when I read tarot, like the way the cards fall, the way we're approaching the actual process has meaning as much as the card itself. And then that card itself, like I love Morgan, your share around being at Lowe's and like seeing that word fulfillment and connecting it to the word professional. I don't remember the third one, but like professional fulfillment, right? It's like your relationship with those words is what's medicinal to you. So this is great because as we move into dream interpretation, it's the same. We have this traditional educational model that says this is the right answer and this is the wrong, and if you get it right, you're rewarded. If you get it wrong, then you're punished. So when we're doing this kind of transpersonal work, it can come up that training of the way that we think that says, oh, can I trust myself that this is accurate or not? And that's part of the why it's really beneficial to do these synchronicity walks, because it helps us open up that level of thinking symbolically that helps us to form relationships with symbols and words and colors and themes that are personal to us. And we're going to get into that more in more detail today, actually, with the sage, because the sage archetype is really skilled at this level of saying, like, they've cleared up some of those beliefs that tell them that they can't, that their instinct isn't correct, or it's a balance I find with oracular work. And I've taught this in Oracle Arts 1. We talk about it as a two-winged bird, where one is your intuition and how it makes you feel, and the other is your knowledge set too. And we actually need both to find insight into this symbolic work. If you're just relying on like, oh, that makes me feel that way, it doesn't have the solidity of the knowledge wing, which says, oh, that's Freya I just saw. And Freya is a Viking goddess, and in the Havamal, they talk about her like this. The knowledge helps us ground those hunches into reality. So that's really the goal too, is to play with these winks so we get insight, we can see inside. Where if we're just utilizing one or the other, we just kind of go around in circles. And this happens in divination as well. You're like, I think, if you're like, well, this card means this, and you're just looking at the book, it kind of doesn't land. Or if you're just like, well, I guess this could land. I could draw some parallels that you could relate to. It's like when you're looking at both, okay, I know number 3 represents this to me in my relationship to it. But also I just heard the word healing and I gonna apply that in. So does that land or make some sense? I'll pass the piece. And I think we'll have time for about one more check-in. You're welcome to check in the chat as well. Passing the penny in.
I'm picking up this coaster made of sandstone, and I'm in bed with allergies today, and I was hosting a 3-day virtual on-site event in Atlanta last week, so I missed last week, which I was anticipating. And then I got flight delays, so I didn't get home till Monday by train. So I've been on the road, I wasn't pooping, my sleep was all over the place. And when you said adjectives, I think I missed an exercise because I still haven't caught up from last week. But I wrote the adjectives for how I'm doing right now, and I'm waiting to rest and just rest. And I slept last night, but yeah. But I did want to share that from the first week after everyone had shared something about their journey to the Dream Temple, and a lot of people saw deer. I came home and I pulled a deer card. So I felt connected to the group in that way, and I'm grateful to be back.
Glad to have you back, Jessalyn. I know I saw your face and I was like, are you okay? Because your eyes were a little swollen. I was like,
I'm all
you
swollen
okay?
and congested. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're moving through this season change right now, and that can be really wonky for our bodies. And it's amazing how much our sleep health relates to everything else, and how much our waking life activities impact our sleep and our dreaming. It really is like a gift when we do get into those regular rhythms so that we can deepen that dream practice, and but yeah, I was just saying when we first got on that, because I'm sleep deprived today as well, that it's also like with yoga where you keep showing up on the mat, and some days are harder than other days, and some days you're just really in the zone, and other days it's really hard to get through. But when we show up on the mat in the practice, then we're still active in the relationship with our dreams, and so they can do what they need to do. Yeah. And I put the replays, I'll send the replays to you on Thursdays, so you'll get those by email, and then I also post them in the Facebook group. So those are the best places to find them, and you can always email me if you need to, and to get anything, and again, email mentorship. I'm here for you through these 8 weeks. If you ever just want to shoot me an email and be like, hey, I'm going through this, or I have a question, or I thought of this, I'm here for it. So please don't be shy. And I know halfway through an online course is when people drop off and we can lose interest. It's statistically that way. So I'm just preparing for tracker week that we might need a little bit more zhuzhing. So I'm also planning on annoying you guys more that week. Just being like, hey, don't forget. Okay. So yeah, and feel free to share any other updates in the chat, or again on our Facebook group as well, is there for you if you want to share your updates. So I want to drop into the sage a little bit. We have a lot to cover today. A little bit more about the sage. I love the saying that knowledge is knowing all the answers, but wisdom is knowing which questions to ask. And that's the sage. The sage is represents inner wisdom. And with that, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to know everything. In fact, the wisest ones are the ones that know they don't know anything. They know enough to know they know nothing. And this is such an important principle as a dream interpreter that has helped me through challenging moments where I really wanted to figure it out, where I really wanted to like get the answer to the dream. And it was as if the more I was trying to know everything about it, the more it would elude us. And so knowing what questions to ask, knowing how to tune into the intuitive side of the bird, that's like, like, I wonder, like, I'm listening in my body for I feel curious about this dream. And like starting with questions when we're interpreting a dream rather than answers, and starting with like, oh, that part really stood out to me. I wonder more about that. I'll explore that. I think the sage is for me, how I relate with that archetype is the sage is someone who's a really good listener. Like the wise elders that I know, they talk, but they listen a lot, and they lead, but they're also kind of leading from the back. It's like they're not the one in the front, like, elect me to be the teacher. There's a humility and a respect for the sovereignty of those that they're supporting and guiding. And so, yeah, just advice giving, right? Because that's a tricky thing. Sometimes we give unsolicited advice. Sometimes I'll share a dream, and like, how does it feel when you share a dream with someone and they say, "Oh, you dreamt about a snake. That means this," immediately. And you're like, "Excuse," it feels a little bit like, "Hey, hold on a second. That's Robert Moss says we never tell someone our dream. We tell them the report of our dream. We're sharing the story of the dream, but we're the only ones who experience it ever." And so it's really our precious medicine of our soul that we're giving, like in intimacy, the into me see, right? You're seeing into someone's subconscious. So when they give you that gift, like holding it gently and and it's kind of like if someone has a baby and you say, "Oh, they're going to be a soccer player," and it's like, whoa, let's not project onto this little baby, this sort of raw material, too much what we believe it is. Now, that said, we're going to get into the magic phrase of "if it were my dream" in a little bit, which "if it were my dream," or IIWMD, is a wonderful incantation that gives you the ability to interpret freely while respecting the sovereignty of the dreamer. But before we go into that, I'd love for us to, in the chat, also we can come on to just share some descriptions. Like, how would you describe it, the sage archetype? And we're not going to do the full journey work tonight, but if you were to imagine the sage and sort of describe what you feel like they look like what are they wearing? Like, are they holding something? Like, where are they in space? If you were to describe a sage archetype the way you see it from inside, how would you describe them? So I'll give us a few minutes to invoke our scribe archetype and write some of that down. I'm just going to start reading some of these. Envisioning the sage as a hermit or an auntie with lots of green in the house and books and soup, very self-contained. The sage is an elder person. I see them in a cave and they're holding a book but not reading it. They're wearing warm purple velvety robes. I'm imagining the sage as a hermit, high priestess blend, gray hair, holding a staff in one hand and a book in the other, looking at you with their third eye. The sage is sitting, quietly listening, mysterious but with clear eyes, wearing a cloak of some sort with a hood and has tools in their cloak, a great thinker, a meditator, and a reflector. Wearing many layers of cloaks, transitions from a man to a woman. Both are joyful, but the man is more serious and wants to share wisdom, whereas the woman is more embracing and listens more and adds in wisdom when it's just right. Yeah, I love how we see them similarly, right? They usually have these books with them. It's like that's their knowledge, and then and they also feel very like contained. Like they're very in a coherent container with their knowledge, but they're warm and welcoming and kind in and patient to welcome people into that place of safety. Yeah. I relate to many of these visions and also with some trickster energy, and that the sage may be unseen until after they've already shared their wisdom, for example, from unexpected places or people. The sage, I am partial to the image of the old wise man with the long beard, wearing rags or a long coat, a bit like a hermit in the Tarot, with clear eyes, calm. But as I check in, I notice I am turning a soul quality into an image or a person. Many possess the quality and can look any way, an infant even. It's a soul quality that takes a certain archetypal form internally, but can be in any body. Love that, right? Because it's so true that these archetypal forms are emergent from a certain blueprint within that can be recognized in everything, which is a very Buddhist philosophy as well, which we've talked about before, John, around that we are all everyone and everything at some point. And so I love that, bringing the sage into the baby wisdom as well. Yeah. Any other thoughts, comments? I'll pass the talking piece in the center if you'd like to come on and share. Here it is.
I'll take the talking piece. I'm curious, what's come to mind is, are there any well-known sages over the years that were like collectively experienced as a sage, and who might we look to being the sage complete?
I love that question. You know who just came up in my mind when you said it was Mr. Rogers. He just came in my mind because he's like, yeah, just guiding children in this very gentle, inclusive way, but providing them with knowledge that is really helpful. And just that, like, that came up. Yeah. Who else comes up for y'all? Passing it in.
I'd say Oprah. Oprah feels like a sage. Like she shares a lot of wisdom and she knows how to listen as well. Yeah.
I think about Ram Dass too. He's got a sagey vibe. And Yoda. Think about women sages. Well, yeah, Oprah. Maya Angelou. She's also a scribe. The sage and the scribe. Now, all these archetypes, like John's saying too, they're all emergent in us. The sage and the scribe with interpreting, they really work together. because the scribe is the one who wrote the book, who put down the dreams in the book. And the sage is the one that looks back and goes, I wonder what that means. Anything else?
I'd like to pick it up. Sorry, did somebody else want to? I'm curious, and this may just be because we're in such a patriarchal society, but sage to me is has such a masculine quality, and I want to get into this a little bit more in terms of like who are the wise, virtuous women, because I just wanted to highlight that like for me, sage is like very specifically masculine. So I'm complete. I'll pass it back in.
I think about in today's day and age, Marion, oh shoot, what is her name? She's running for president. She's
Marianne Williamson.
She feels like a sage. I think there's lots of incredible sages that are women. Mother Teresa was, I would imagine, she was also a sage. One of the qualities that I'm like, when I sense into the sage, I'm sensing somebody who's really in their body and very grounded. Like that seems to be like a quality, like you just feel so comfortable because they're just like so embodied and like more of the earth versus like, like channeling. Like that's what it feels like to me, at least. I don't know if anybody has similar thoughts, but I'll pass it back.
Yeah, I'll pick it up. Definitely. As far as just connection with the earth, and I was feeling into the 13 indigenous grandmothers. And they came up when you were asking that, Morgan, and just their connection with the land and the water, the elementals and the earth. And the earth wisdom they carry, the indigenous wisdom and like practical wisdom about how to live in the mundane world. Like I feel like the shadow of the sage becomes like an unintegrated sage archetype comes in feeling like a guru, or like really heady guru priesty, like pope guy who's kind of like trickster, right? That came up earlier, like a little bit like tricky, and so that really grounded like grandmother earthway wise crone energy. And I think the crone would be another word for the sage that's often associated as a feminine word, but sage is actually pretty gender neutral. I think it's the roots from the same word as sage, like the herb, right? And so also I love, John, how you're bringing forth like implicit bias, right? Like we were talking about in synchronicity walk, where maybe we can look outside of our own limited perspective on this archetype and say, a plant sage is a sage, ayahuasca is a sage, a quartz crystal is a sage, a fox is a sage, and see the same spark within even inanimate objects. Yeah.
Can I pick up the stick for a second?
Yes, of course. Hi, Krista.
Hi, everyone. I just had to shout out Caroline Casey, the Visionary Activist Show, because she's my most famous female human sage that is on this earth, and I just adore her. And she's just decades of interviewing amazing, insightful people, and her research and her depth of knowledge is just amazing.
Heck yeah. Thank you for shouting out Carolyn Casey, for sure. I also see you put Clarissa Pinkola Estes in there as well. Thank you for that. Because Dr. E, most deaf, a sage. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Lynn Twist. We've got a great great list here. Maria Sabina, yeah. Mm. Mhm.
I also am a birth worker, and I think of like the grand midwives and like elder midwives, and like the most uninterrupted birth processes I've either like witnessed or heard of are, like really the psychic guardianship of birth support, where maybe physiologically there isn't really much to be done, but just having that elder experienced person kind of mirroring the birthing person's questions and doubts back to them, and like making space and kind of clearing the way for them to like take the next breath or contraction forward. And so much of that is psychic and verbal, but also sometimes like musical or tonal or silence based exchange of wisdom.
Yeah, exchange of wisdom. Yeah, and that's not always verbal. Sometimes that's just holding space to listen and pay attention. Hmm. Yeah, I feel like with dream work, when a dream story comes in, just bringing it to the light and like it bearing witness is a lot of the work. And so let's let ourselves off the pressure that when we interpret, we have to get it right or the meaning of it for ourselves or for someone else, because it's really just being with it and listening to it and holding space that is a big part of it. It's just remembering and holding it. And the dreams for me, like my dream memories are these living organisms. They're like whole ecosystems. And over time, their meaning can change sometimes or expand. So sometimes I'll go, oh, well, dream must have meant that. But like holding space to listen to it and just let it be so that it can speak back. You can kind of let it speak to you how it lands in the moment or later on. There does feel like there's a surrendering that the sage knows how to do. Mm-hmm. I'm also seeing that John's audio isn't working. Speaking of listening, but I'll give some voice to this. John says, often when I ask for advice or wisdom internally, I'll be hosted by a woman elder. She doesn't say anything, but she just looks at me with such loving eyes, holding my soul like a grandmother holds her grandchild. It's not always the information that's shared, but the transmission of unconditional love itself. That's safeful for me. Safeful should be sageful, though I love safeful also. The safeful sage. Mhm. Anything else before so what we're gonna do next is we're gonna do some dream sharing. If one of us had a dream story that we would like to share this week and practice sharing, and then we'll work with that dream and we'll practice a couple different ways we could approach that dream, with different interpretation styles. So but before we get to all that, is there anything else that's bubbling up that wants to get shared? I'll pass this in. All right. Well, we've summoned some of the energies here of the sage, and so I invite us with that to take a moment to just close our eyes. Jesselyn's leading the way. Closing our eyes, and with the next breath that comes your way, just let it be a conscious one. And you don't even have to change it, just notice it. Inhaling and exhaling. Doing our best to relax into our body. With all that said, just taking a moment to integrate, maybe deepening our breath a little bit. Just getting more and more relaxed and centered into our inner awareness. And we bring our attention to Dream Maker, the creator of all that is, that creates these dreams. We ask to be shown, show us, show us, show us a dream that feels relevant to right now, that feels connected to this moment for us and for this particular council. We ask to be shown a medicine dream, and this could be a dream from long ago. It could be a dream from last night, one you totally remember, or one that you didn't remember till now. Just being open to be shown. You can also take this time if you want to revisit a dream that you have in mind. You can do that too. But just opening up for some memory time. I'm going to play a song for us here for 1 or 2 minutes while we remember. I'm just remembering to center into the breath. All right. And just gently coming back from our dream recall practice. And if you'd like to take a moment to just write down any impressions of what you saw in that time, either in the chat or in your journal, just take another minute here. Mhm. Awesome. We'll just take one more minute to write down any impressions we got. All right. So I want to share some fun tools for interpreting today. And I want to start with interpreting for ourselves. So, with what you just wrote down of your dream, we're going to play a little game. So, I want you to look at the words in what you just wrote down, like put on your scribe hat for a second and get really into the words. So, what three words, they can be any of the words in your dream write down or your poem or whatever came through, what three words stand out to you the most out of those three words? Or out of those, all the words, what three stand out? And you can write them in the chat or in your journal. Awesome. Okay. And once you start to identify those three words, um, we're gonna do this thing called the Gestalt method. This was invented by Fritz Perls in the 1960s when the transpersonal psych movement was really getting big. And basically, the concept is, it's a very Jungian concept, which is that we are, if we were to interpret the dream as if everything in the dream was an aspect of our own personality, our own psyche that's expressing itself. Even the place or the color could be, or buildings, inanimate things can be aspects of our personality. So the idea is that we want to say, I am this aspect of the dream, right? So for example, I wrote down the words Mexico, home, and ocelot. So I am Mexico. I am warm. I am kind of dangerous. I am exciting. I am exotic, right? Just whatever word associations come out for you. I want us to take these three words and become them, and then describe yourself. Does that make sense? Are there any questions?
You want us to describe ourselves beyond the words? Like what that means to us, kind of a thing?
Yes. So in a way, it's like free association, which you
Mhm.
can also do with this practice, like where you're like, oh, okay, this word, I associate all these things with this word. For me, that's my relationship with it. But the Gestalt method is a little bit deeper, where now you're like, I am that. And this is how I am. And you're describing yourself. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Yeah, but so if I were to say the hotel, like I am a hotel, which indicates travel, and like I'm interpreting the different parts.
Yeah, like I'm a hotel. I'm a place where travelers come to stay. I'm a transitionary place,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
something like that. Now you can also do that with a character in your dream too. Like I have ocelot here, so I am an ocelot.
Mhm.
I'm, powerful, even though I'm small.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So yeah, so Sharon's asking, this is a word association for what word? So in the dream report, that in the dream memory that you had, when you write that down, what words stand out to you from that? Um, yeah, from the dream recall practice. Whale River Carrying. I am large and wise, oceanic. I am gentle, sing a beautiful song, and travel thousands of miles every year. I am winding, flowing. I am clear and crisp. I am flexible. I am water. I am an open heart. I am empathy. I am love. Beautiful. So, what we're actually creating here is our own personal dream dictionary. I'm a very not dream dictionary kind of person because for me, it's so limiting to what these symbols could actually mean. It can actually prevent us from seeing beyond our bias, right? So, but I am about creating my own personal dream dictionary. Like I know what a snake means to me when I dream it because I've watched the patterns and I know what my relationships are with them in waking life and in dreams. So I can keep that dictionary for myself, you know what I mean? That to have a sense for tracking the patterns, which we'll talk about next week more with the tracker, but like tracking the patterns of what it means for me. The other piece of this is like if you're feeling confused about what your dream means and you're with yourself with it, you don't feel like it's a dream you want to share with others, this writing practice can help you open up to see, start to expand that meaning immediately. You're going to see like words in these descriptions, right? These, I am a hotel, people come from all over to stay with me. I'm sometimes simple and other times unique and vibrant, you know. So in that writing, you could go ahead and circle some other stuff and then write about what that you associate with that and just keep going. And another cool thing you can do with word association, you don't always have to say I am. So like you could say hotel, like transition, city, travel, like fun, or you know, whatever. Write all those words down and then go back to your original dream report and plug some of those words back in. So like where I said I'm in Mexico, I could say I'm in a place that's far away. Now I'm in a beautiful home. Now I feel more safe. I'm always with my power. And now I can now already I can feel what that meaning of those dream memories, like why those memories are surfing, is meaningful to me without anyone else having to get involved. You know what I mean? The last piece around this section of interpreting for yourself is the Gestalt method, which I mean, not the Gestalt method, sorry. It's in the Gestalt method, which is having a conversation between the characters or symbols in your dream So like, what's the relationship between the ocelot and the house? If I was the ocelot, what's my relationship in that house? Do I live in the house? Am I outside of it? Am I inside of it? Where's my place there? And so you can start to creatively imagine and write based on how you would like to see those symbols, how those symbols talk to each other. Now, when you dream of people, this is wonderful because let's say you have, or a guide or a being that comes into your dream and you're curious about them. In your dream journal, you can say, hello, character. I'm the dreamer. And I wonder, why have you come into my dream today? And then say, I am the character. I've come into your dream because, and just intuitively. Now that's where your intuition wing's going to really flap, because you're going to want to you're going to want to use that part of your being to let yourself, that free association, right? Just whatever they want to say, especially because it's your journal. Like, no, there's no right or wrong. Just, I'm here because of this. Or, hey, character, what's your name? My name is this. And you'll find that oftentimes in this method that it will open up meaning for you. Just naturally, you'll start to get to form a deeper relationship with the dreams, which is where the medicine is, right? Are there any questions about that? I'll pass the piece in.
I'll take the piece. It reminds me of the language of flowers, which, like, depending on the culture and the time, like flowers have had different meanings like all through time. But like really, like when people have worked with flower essences, and there may be like a typical thing, but like you can come to define it yourself. So I'm finding like this idea of like building our own dream dictionary or like catalog, or like I think of it as kind of like you were saying, like different ecosystems. Like there's like a whole world, like a landscape, and there's like different biomes, and like the different relationships are unique to my planet. So that's really helpful way of thinking about like as I build my interpretive relation to self.
Totally. And it is fun to practice in groups. One time at Dream Council, I had this dream, and in the dream, see this line of animals going into the forest. And I can't see who's at the head of the line, but I can just see all the animals going there. And that's the dream. And when I come out of the dream story, we practiced the Gestalt method as a group. And one person in the council was the field, one was an animal in the line, one was the trees in the forest, one was and then I decided to be the one that was in the front of the line. I stepped into that place and it described what it was like to be there, and realized it was my own future self. It was another very meta moment where it came full circle. But so just to say that this is wonderful for like identifying our own language and how our psyche tends to speak to us through dream. And it can be a really fun practice with others. It's not limited to yourself. Like if you want to practice this with someone else, then you can step into the seat of someone's dream character and speak for them, which is a really fun thing. We're not going to do that today. Maybe in Tracker, we can get into that a little bit, because the Tracker, when we get into dream revisitation, like you're saying, there's a whole biome of your dream, right? Like the ancient Egyptians defined the word dream to mean a place that you go to. And so these places that we have, like once we have them as a memory, they're just there, and they can have different flavors or different, we can start to get to know them. You know, like I'm in a process right now of inner anonymous transformation dreams where I'm dreaming a lot of men who I'm been in love with or have that had that attachment, because I'm going through a breakup. So my psyche's going through these nightly processes of turning the compost pile and redefining those archetypes. And but I can recognize that now because it's over the years, there's patterns like that where that happens. And now I know, like, oh, that hotel in Mexico, that's that place for me. That's a place I go to regularly. And that usually means I'm associate, you know, that I'm working on stuff with this aspect of my life. So yeah, having your own sort of your own baseline idea of what things quote mean. Anything else coming up? Passing the piece. Just looking back at these notes, awesome work. And so notice too, like what comes up for you, like how do you feel now reading what you associated, like what feelings come up for you? Um, you know, like what, now that we've done this practice, how would you interpret the meaning of that dream or dream memories for you? What do you feel like it's telling you? And we can write that in the chat.
You're
Oops,
muted.
sorry, I muted myself. What new insights do you have about this dream or dreams now that you've done this practice? Or in Jungian psychology, they say, so what? Basically. And I'll put the piece in if you'd like to pick it up and share a little bit about what's coming up. Here it is. I'll pick it up again to ask and just re-invoke the sage to your inner sage. If they were to interpret this dream, What would they say?
I'll pick it up. Should we explain the story of our dream beforehand, or should we just kind of go into what the sage would be, how the sage would be guiding us or advising us or reflecting on what the dream story is?
Whatever you feel in your wisdom is the right thing to do. I trust. Passing the peace.
Cool. So yeah, I mean, I feel like in this case, with the dream that I had with the yellow house and blue snakes and floating bridges connecting tree houses, I think that the sage is trying to, and Dreammaker is trying to tell me to um lean into rest in between all the productivity and the busyness, and also have fun with it. It's been a big message that's coming through. It's like to have fun with life. Just have fun. I take everything so seriously, I feel like. And I think that in this dream, the yellow house, she's telling me that, like, this is representative of joy and comfort that's found also in the chaos, and also found in like the chaos and all the change that's constantly occurring. And
Ooh,
yeah, go ahead. Can you hear me?
you froze for a moment, but you're back. It's the
Okay, yeah,
Starlink. We got you.
my yeah, Starlink, good old Starlink up here in the woods. Um Yeah, so I don't know what you caught last, but it's just like just to have fun and lean into the comfort while the change is occurring, and the joy, find joy. And the blue snakes are very perplexing to me, because in this particular dream, there were like 5 of them, and I was holding them in my hands, and they were very particularly blue. And I felt like maybe I was like suffocating them or strangling them, but I was worried that they weren't going to survive. Yet I think that they were already not alive. Um, but I don't know. So like that to me, I'm not sure what she's trying to tell me, because snakes have come to me in my dreams a lot, and I really feel like a natural, like I can naturally interpret and like feel into what they symbolize for me and what they're trying to represent for me at the time. But in this scenario, it was a very mysterious. And so, I mean, if anyone has any insight, I don't know. I was worried about the snakes in this dream. That was my feeling about it when I woke up. I wanted to share this actually in the Facebook group. My intention is to be more active there. Um, but yeah, that's what I have to share. There were other elements to the dream, but I'll keep it at that for now, and I will pass it back in.
I'll pick it up because dang, that's an awesome segue to the next part of our night tonight. So thank you for that. That was like so seamless actually. Because the next piece we're going to talk about is about interpreting with others. And because sometimes you'll do that writing practice and you're like, there's still this one part that I just cannot. It's like something in me, again, like what I just saw was this image I saw once at a wild animal park of these like sheep that were up on the top of the hill, and they were all faced outward so that they could see all the angles of like what was coming. That's what I just saw in my clairvoyance, but it's like this concept of like I like us facing inward. Let's say we're facing inward. Maybe we're not sheep. We can just be people if we want, but like just we're looking inside at the same thing, the same little gem, but like from over here, I can see it differently than you can from over there. So I'm really just being like, it looks like that from my perspective. What do you think? So that's a big piece of interpreting for others. Now I want to share with us this method that changed my life forever. Again, Uncle Robert Moss. I should like give him a percentage of Dreamwalker because I work with so much of his material. He's just so good at this. I'm glad you've been enjoying his book too. And you probably have seen this method then in his book. It's called the lightning method of dream interpretation. And this method gave me so much confidence as a dream interpreter to where, like, if I wasn't sure, if I'm not sure how to start, or I'm not sure nothing intuitively is coming up, this is where I start, this is where I go. And one of the reasons he calls it the lightning method is because it's fast. It's meant to be fast. And I like that because over the years of dream interpreting, if you stick with one dream too long and you pick at it too much, it's TMI. It can actually get diluted. So you kind of do want to like jump in, check it out, and then like do your best to like not overdo it and jump out with something practical, you know? I've noticed sometimes when I go too long, I kind of just go, ugh, we both kind of get all like, whoa, or like the wing has gone too far to the intuitive side and it needs to be rebalanced to the practical. So, okay, so here's the lightning method and we can practice with this piece of the dream if you'd like. So and do you have a name for this dream that you would like to give it?
No, not at this point, but
Oop, not really. Okay, that's fine. So, okay, so what I heard from the dream is there's 5 blue snakes, and the dreamer is holding these in their hands, and the dreamer is suffocating these snakes, but worried that they're not going to survive. So, the first number one in the lightning method is feelings, and especially feelings upon awakening. But you also want to identify what feelings you felt in the dream. Like I immediately see worry. Are there any other feelings and how did you feel initially when you woke up from the dream? Would be my first question for you. I'll pass the piece in the middle. Oh, protective. Okay. Protective. Okay. Protective, worried. Okay. Any other feelings that come up? Not really. Okay. So the second part of the lightning method is waking life. So are there in your waking life when you had this dream, were you feeling worried or feeling protective? Yeah, totally. Yeah. So that's a big thing. Like mirroring waking life is number 2. Like you can always ask a dreamer, so what's going on? What was going on in your waking life when you had that dream? Is there anything you can relate frequency wise? That's going to show you a whole lot. Is there anything you want to expand about that with waking life? Like what comes up for you when when you think about feeling that way in waking life? Or
yeah, I think like yeah,
she'll come back.
my mental well-being. Am I good?
Yeah, you're good now.
Being protective of my mental health and my well-being while there's so much change going on. Like being concerned, like I woke up kind of concerned. Yeah, like I woke up with this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like I wanted these snakes to survive, but why was I the one, or the dreamer was the one that had like their hands on the snakes? And like the snakes were alive, but then they weren't alive like throughout the dream. And so I was just like, and the fact that there were like really specifically like more than 3, I felt like the number 5 was really coming through strong. But yeah, I think that's what I would like in my waking life upon reflection. That's what came up and through.
Mhm. Awesome. Yeah, so the next part of the lightning method is the if it were my dream part. And we touched on it earlier, because it's a really, really helpful phrase for interpreting others' dreams because it respects the sovereignty of the dreamer, but it also gives you a chance to say, if it were my dream, it reminds me of a dream I had back then. Or if it were my dream, I associate snakes with dot, dot, dot. If it were my dream, I might want to do this with it. And I just like it just becomes like one long words, like if it were my dream. And you'll also see right in writing, oftentimes we'll write it IIWMD just for short. But just to disclaimer it, just this is the spiritual disclaimer that says, I don't know what your dream means, but if it were mine, I would think this. So if it were my dream, and I'm feeling concerned because I want the snakes to survive. It's interesting because I feel like I'm also kind of suffocating them at the same time. Like I want them to survive, but I'm gripping them so tightly out of being worried that they're not going to, that it's actually sort of causing them more stress. So that immediately comes up for me. But I wonder from the council, if this were your dream, how would you interpret it? I'll pass it back in.
I'll grab it. And if this were my dream, I also was thinking about the juxtaposed positions with the snakes. And if it was my dream, I'd wonder if there were places where I was feeling out of alignment, or if there were places where I had to be more decisive. Yeah, I'll put it back there.
Any other interpretations from the council if it was your dream?
Can we ask clarifying questions? Morgan, what does the color blue mean to you?
My initial response is calm, like relaxed. Yeah, and colors came through really specifically throughout this whole dream, like with the yellow house. And then I didn't include some other details throughout, but there were like purple accents on the yellow house, but I was like determined to paint them red. And then the blue snakes came in. And so there were a lot of elements in this, and it was like very disjointed in some ways. But yeah, that's what initially comes to mind, is like that's what it represents for me, that color.
So it's interesting because when I was reading your what you wrote, automatically I started thinking, oh, interesting, primary colors. So if this was my dream, and you just added in red as well, which was like, there you go. But if this was my dream, I would explore primary colors and what also this means to you.
I can pick up the talking stick. Yeah, if this was my dream, I mean, I like this dream because I selfishly want to interpret it for myself. And I'm thinking about getting a tattoo of the I'm gonna forget the name, how to say it, the snake eating its tail soon, that I've wanted to get for years. And so this and it does look like several snakes intertwined in this knot that I was gonna get on my that I might get on the top part of my stomach. So in that sense, it's like it's alive, but it's not, and I keep kind of like changing my mind about whether or not, and so it's like there, but it's not. And I don't really know what else to say about that, except for that I can relate to that personally as wanting it to be there, but then not wanting it to be there, and feeling indecisive about whether or not the snakes should live. And I think in general, the snakes are, you know, this primordial power that invokes fear and power, and is associated with the dragon too, and sometimes can be sometimes can be scary, and can also be invoke a sense of wanting to kill it, as well as wanting it to live, I guess.
Awesome. I'll pick up the piece. How does that land for you, Morgan, to hear those reflections from the council? I'll pass you the piece.
It's fascinating, and my brain is firing in all of these different directions that are like kind of like aligning, actually. So it's like connecting. It feels connecting, and it feels so it's so beautiful to hear the reflections and then have it align for me. So it's like from all the perspectives, but then it's aligning for like how I felt about it, really. And just the primordial and the primary colors, the primary colors. Thank you so much for saying that, Nicole, because yeah, this is just fascinating how everybody has these. It's making so much more sense. And it's interesting how we go through the same experiences and can interpret the things because we either have certain experiences or knowledge or intuition. So yeah, this is fascinating. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so glad that lands for you. And when you're the dreamer and you're receiving reflections from another, like I know for me, like I notice what lands as truth for me. And if it doesn't, that's okay too. But like there's usually like a thunk. Like I felt it with the primary colors. Like when that dropped, there was this like, oh, like something fires. There's like a, ooh, yeah, you feel it in your body. And when it doesn't, when it's like, I guess that could fit. You can gauge again, it's like the process reveals a lot of the meaning too. So like trusting your wise sage to take and leave what is coming back to you. But usually it's gonna land because there's one of our mottos for Dream Council is our dreams are medicine for our community. Our dreams, when we share them in public, like Joseph Campbell says, they become myths. They become the blue snakes now live with all of us with medicine and meaning, and especially those feelings of feeling worried or making a decision and wanting to make the right decision, not sure. There's like all this primal power. That's something we can all relate with. And probably right now, especially because I noticed doing this work every week, every Sunday, that there would be a theme that would be so relevant to who was present for the dream stories to be shared. So yeah, all that. Now, there's one more step to the lightning method, which is creative action plans. So that's number 4. And what this is the question, if you were to take an action in waking life based on the medicine of what we just unearthed in the interpretation process, if you were to take an action, it could be anything. What do you feel like you would do, dreamer? So can sit with that for a minute. I'll pass the panda back in.
And I'll pick it up because I just wrote in the chat actually that so what actions would you take in your waking life? I mean, this is just so clear now and obvious that I'm like painting for this visual art show in my waking life, and this painting and these primary colors are coming through in my dreams. And I don't know why this didn't occur to me before, but the calm and the meditative state that I'm achieving, which has actually really been protective for my mental health in waking life, has been like transformative. And so it just seems really clear that like I'm on the right path, and just like keep painting and paint through the change and like meditate through the change. And in that way, I will protect my mental health, which will also protect the communities I'm part of, because the healthier we are, the healthier our communities are. So yeah, wow, I'll pass it back in.
Love it. Love how this is dream medicine's weaving into the art show. Can't wait for that. Poetogenic expressions. And that's what it's all about. And is there any actions that the council feels inspired to take based on the medicine of this dream? I'll pass the piece back in. Just kidding. I'm going to pick it back up again to say an action that's coming up for me is just like when I'm anxious, my death grip on things that need time to be cast out. Like if this were my dream, it reminds me of this upcoming tour we're going to do with Ken of Merlin, and like all these irons in the fire, and kind of wanting to like feeling anxious because it's so powerful, but wanting to be in control more than I am because there's forces out of my control that kind of need to be let free. And I've like cast out all these seeds, and now I'm waiting, and it requires me to surrender control. But this is a reminder that actually that's a benefit sometimes to manifesting, is to sort of let things out and let it move, and let it, like there's something for me at creative action with this dream that reminds you about surrendering control. But also, like if I were to revisit this dream, like if it were me, I would, and we'll talk about this in tracker more, but I would also want to feel into, where do those snakes need to be? Like, where are they happy and alive and vibrant and safe? Where, where I know if it were my dream, that would be a good environment, would be an ideal environment for them. And so an action I'm taking in that is like with finding my new home and stuff too, is like, again, putting lots of seeds out, but then surrendering control, but really asking like, where's the best environment for that part of me, that powerful part, to live, where it feels safe and nourished and happy and healthy. So that's what's coming up for me. Krista says, get the tattoo. Some snakes recently died in a fire about a month ago. Yeah, interesting. And what's beautiful about this too is in indigenous cultures all around the world for thousands of years, we've been gathering like this to share our dreams. And at the end of it, getting inspired to get tattoos and do rituals and make art. And we are tribal animals, and we're pack animals, and we are those sheep on the top of the hill. So it kind of, to really dive into your deep dream work, I found requires a community, like a tribe, to help process some of this stuff. We can do it on our own, but it's so powerful when we do it together. Anything else? Any other action plans? Passing it in.
Yeah, I just had something really strong like come in. And after Emily, after you also said about letting them free, so I was thinking about, how is this dream active in my life? And I feel like in many ways with my businesses, like I'm like launching my second edition of the guidebook, my career clarity guidebook, and of course that goes with it. And same with the nonprofit that I have. It's the same thing where it's like, I'm actually gripping on so tight because I want it to survive. Like I'm holding it so tight because I want it to. And that there's something about also releasing it and letting it go. And I'm sitting with like, how do I release it and move it forward with like, without having to hold on so tight. And yeah, like I think that's really big, because I'm definitely like at a place right now, and this is incredible medicine for me. Like, Morgan, thank you so much for the stream. because like this right now is what I'm up against, and I'm feeling like I'm holding on so tight that I'm almost like not even moving. And I think I need to like let it go and be a little bit more expansive, but also have to figure out like some way to like also like direct the expansiveness. Where do I place the snakes? How do I do that? So yeah, that's really big. So thank you so much. Passing it back.
I feel that, just to pick it up and riff on that, because it does feel like there's this like just let go and surrender, but like, yeah, but there's reasons sometimes why we feel insecure or we worry. Like it doesn't come out of nowhere. And that helped me so much when one of my teachers said that to me. He said, I'm just feeling insecure and I want to know how to not be insecure anymore. And he said, well, there's a reason why you're insecure, honey. Maybe you need to work on that part. And I was like, wow, that actually felt really validating of my feeling, rather than saying you need to fix yourself out of that feeling, because it's not true. Like it is, there are reasons why we might grip it tight, because if we let it go, it might be dangerous to ourselves or others in a way we can't see. So it can indicate that we need to take action to make a place to let that go into, that feels safe, that we can trust ourselves to release it into, where it won't harm others or ourselves, right? And with dream work, and again, this is moving into tracker stuff, because what's cool about dream revisitation is your dream is a place, and once you have the key of the memory in your journal or wherever in your mind, you can just go back in there with your imagination. And we're going to really play with this next week, which is going to be fun. We're going to do journey work and some dream revisitation practice. But, just knowing that there is a place for these snakes. And if you don't know yet in waking life, like what they're symbolizing, where that place is, you can start with the dream template that you have now and go in and say, Dreammaker, show me where's the best place for this energy to live, where I don't have to grip it on so tight, it can breathe freely, and it's in a safe container and secure where there won't be any harm. Show me. And then again, you're probably going to be shown dreams or visions of symbols that you can take back into the processing of word association or lightning method, and process again and again. And I do again want to just be wary of over processing some stuff, because that can happen where we like don't, for beat a dead horse kind of thing. It's like once you got the thing, like the aha, like work with that. But then if you need to go deeper, just know it's always there. It's always there. Like that ocelot dream for me now has become this gate to my dream memories, and it's just there for me to access when I need it. For that, the ocelot's there to help me with that as a gatekeeper. So yeah, it's flexible. Passing the piece in.
Emily, I have a quick question. Just because I know you're such an advanced dreamer, and I'm wondering if for this week you could give us a little prompt of I know you've said about how to remember dreams, but is there any method that you use to have a particularly rich dreams, medicine dreams? Are there invocations you do? Are there certain chants that you do? I know you know so many chants with the runes and all of that.
Yeah, so I am really a chaos magician in a lot of ways, and so the right tool for the job is my motto, and that changes over time. And so there's no like one clear method, but some ways in which you can enhance, a lot of how you can enhance your dream life is through your waking life activities. Like Morgan was sharing earlier, like cutting back on cannabis can enrich your dream life. Also working with herbs, like and don't, again, not limiting yourself, because like sage has really helped me with dreams sometimes when I need to like get out of an icky place. Like I'll eat a little bit of sage or burn sage before I go to sleep. Mugwort is a wonderful herb for to increase vivid dreams. Wyusa is an herb that I work with for lucid dreaming. It's similar to caffeine, but you're able to sort of sleep with it because of the other compounds. So it keeps you like awake at a level where you can stay awake but still sleep. So it's great for lucid dreaming. So herbs are helpful. Diet, Blue Lotus is another awesome one. And I'll see if I can dig up, we made a ebook years ago. I'll see if I can dig it up for us. Let me put that down. Because it has a list of herbs and for sleeping and dreaming. Yeah, if you eat after 8 p.m., it can interrupt your circadian rhythms and sleep, things like that. So there's like do's and don'ts in waking life that can support just deeper sleep. Establishing a desire to dream is a big one. Just like showing up for this class is going to help with that. Like, I know I was struggling with recall, but it's getting better the more I'm in this course and accountable to others and to myself to remember. So establishing that desire is a huge one. Invocation before sleep, there's lots of different energy exercises you can practice. I like a grounding cord where I imagine an orb of light is traveling to the center of the earth and connecting to the earth, and then traveling back up into my body and grounding my physical body with the earth while my spirit leaves. There's some great, I can, in our Dream Council chat, the public group chat, I'm going to put that in there too. We had a day where we were sharing a bunch of invocations from the Pleiadian workbook and different Qigong energy exercises, but scanning your body, scanning your aura, and declaring that your body and your spirit is safe and is going to have vivid, wonderful dreams, and thanking the dream maker. Another practice, such as a Tibetan dream yoga practice, is to perform a day review. And this is where, when you're on your way to sleep, you start at the beginning of your day today, and you just review everything you did today. And the things that you did that you really liked, that you're really grateful for, the hardest part of your day. Maybe someone pissed you off, so you could let that go for now. Or, like that moment of road rage, you could revisit and go, ooh, yeah, I really felt that. Well, I'm going to sleep now. To the Tibetans, they believe that every time you go to sleep, to Tibetan dream yogis, you die. And your dreams are your afterlife. And when you wake up, it's your birth. And that dreams are a practice for death. So that when we die, if I were Tibetan yoga, they believe, I would believe that I would enter into a dreamlike state. And like how some say you go to hell or heaven, these are dream states, template levels of dream reality that we enter. And some of us become lucid when we die, recognize, oh, I died, I'm in a dream. And some of us never do. We just keep on dreaming as a soul. And that Tibetan dream yogis believe we dream so we can practice for death. So it's not shocking. Like we're practicing every night for our death. And so the day review is a way, just like a life review, right? Where you're like, just like when you die, and they say, like, when you die, you can review your whole life and you can see the bigger picture of it and find meaning about it and accept it as a whole experience. Like, we don't have to wait until we die to practice that. We can do that every day. And do that once in a while with your life. Like, pretend you're dying and just go, but all in all, it makes sense. And the love is what was important. And I can move on from the rest. And that practice, so what that does before you go to sleep is your brain did that. So then your dreams don't become the place where you're doing that. Because I don't know about you, but like if you work full time and then you dream you're at work, because your dreams are now your brain is working to process all of that material from the day. So a way we can we just put that aside and say thank you. And now I'm here and I'm ready to dream. So those are some, there's a lot. I mean, you can grid your bed with crystals or keep a dream catcher. Essential oils are amazing. You can put mugwort oil on your feet if you want to. And oh, I don't want to overload you, but one more thing is write down in your journal before you go to sleep, which we're going to talk about more in Jedi. But if you can write down in your journal before you go to sleep what you'd like to dream about, or ask a question, and we're going to get deeper in that with Jedi, with dream incubation and lucid dreaming. But yeah, you're really like the Sanuai people of Malaysia say that like you in this waking reality, like creator is the grandma and we're the grandkids. And when we're dreaming, we're the grandma and everything is our grandkids. So we are in charge, and a lot more than we realize. But it's subtle. It's a subtle shift into into it. And if your dreams aren't super vivid, you don't remember them all the time, you're not having that. The goal is to get there, but I would just really encourage us all to just keep practicing and be easy on yourself. Just like that's been really key for me, because I don't feel like I have epic lucid dreams every night or anything. Like I'm just like everyone else in a lot of ways where it fluctuates, but I just have this deep dedication and curiosity to it and belief in its power of healing and transformation, that I allow it to be whatever it needs to be. Does that make sense? That was kind of a lot of different things.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. One of my life goals is to be a grandma for real. Mugwort and sage, yes. Herbs for lucid dreaming besides blue lotus. Yeah, we can talk. We'll talk about that more in Jedi, but some fun ones that I like to work with. And I'll just write their names here. So, Selene capensis. Say that 10 times fast. It's also known as African dream root. Is one of my favorite lucid dreaming herbs, and in its native language it means the white paths. And I don't know if you've ever seen Black Panther, the Marvel film, but when he eats the blue flower and he goes into the ancestral world and everything's sort of glowing with these strands of light, it's very much like that. And in fact, if you want more vivid dreams, then Selene capensis will definitely show you vivid. In my experience, it everywhere that there's chi, there's these white strands of energy that show up in the dream, and the more chi that I would build in the dream, the more this white light would build. It's very it's like a psychedelic journey, though. It's very interesting. Amanita muscaria is one that is, for me personally, Selene capensis is a root. It's actually seed. It's a seed. And it comes in a powder form. And actually, before I move on to the next ones, actually how you take it, you can't just eat it, but how traditionally in Africa they'll work with it is you put it in a jar in the morning and you shake it up, and it makes like a foam, and you do that all throughout the day before you gonna have the dream. And when you shake it, you're invoking your intention and speaking with the plant about what you'd like to see happen, till you get like a nice amount of foam on the top. And how they would do it is cover their entire body in the foam before they go to sleep, and then drink the rest of it down. But I've had it in chocolate. Like I have friends who make dream chocolates, which if you're interested, I can connect you with them. They're from Milu in Portland. They have a chocolate shop and they make dream chocolates with Selenia capensis in them, which is pretty yummy. Cacao can be kind of stimulating, but again, with lucid dreaming herbs, you want the combination of stimulating and relaxing so that you can ride that theta wave state through lucidity. And you want to ride that, we'll talk about it in Jedi, but you ride that hypnagogic state by maintaining awareness. So herbs that help you with focus, like go to cola, or I had mentioned Wayusa before, which I'll write down. They all have kind of fun names. Wayusa, go to cola. I also want to mention, speaking of a fun name, Kalia Zakadachichi, which I'm going to write down here. Zakadachichi. I think I spelled the last part right, but it's Kalia, Calea. If you search Kalia Dreaming Herbs. It is a Mexican, it's found in Mexico, speaking of Marina Sabina and ocelots and Guatemala and all the Mexican energy of tonight. It grows with Damiana is also from Mexico, which just popped into my head to mention. But Kalia is very bitter. It's one of the most bitter herbs I've ever worked with. I would not recommend it in a tea or even really a tincture. I would smoke it if I were you, is traditionally how it's taken. And it increases lucid dreaming, very vivid dreams. Like the first time I worked with it at the Isis temple with a Mayan priestess woman who was visiting. And we smoked it before we went to sleep. And I remember eating this fruit and the fruit being so like good. Like I could really feel everything. And just talk about vivid. Also, mint, black pepper, and lemon as a tea. True. You can, if you like bitter, then yeah, and you can drink it. I'm like, whoa, mugwort's like that too. I'm just like, whoa. Plus, if you're pregnant or nursing, don't take mugwort, please. It's an abortificant. And of course, because I'm talking herbs, please consult your natural health practitioner. I'm not here to diagnose or treat. I'm just sharing with you, if it were my dream, the kind of herbs that work for me, just to cover our medicine tracks here. So yeah, what do we talk? Selenia capensis, Kalia Zakadachichi. Yeah, mugwort, blue lotus. Now, the biggest thing with plant medicine that I want to just really instill is, because we do this in Western culture a lot, where we say, what's that used for? How do I use that? Let me use that. And we use the word use a lot in Western culture. And plants, just like with our dreams, it's in our relationship with the plants where we find medicine. So, for example, rosemary, to me, the wiser I get as an herbalist, the older I get, the more I realize, like, I really probably only need rosemary for everything that I ever needed herbally. Like, if you like, I think that sometimes there's a level of herbalism where we have like 15 different things in a formula. We're like, this is every superfood, and less can be more. And our relationship, speaking directly with the plant and saying, hey, rosemary, will you help me remember my dream last night? Thank you so much for your ability to help me remember. Please show me. Or, hey, mugwort, thank you, spirit of mugwort, for helping so many with our dreams. Please help me have a lucid dream about my loved one who passed. I'd love to be able to visit with them. I'd love to be able to visit with my ancestor. And thank you, Dream Maker. Thank you so much for this ability to remember. Please show me and surround my body in golden light of peace and protection as I sleep deeply. And while my body sleeps, may it be safe and nourished by Mother Earth. Nourish all my cells. Nourish my body with deep delta sleep so that my body can repair and heal. And show me any dreams that feel relevant right now. Sometimes I'll ask, like, show me a dream and show me what love feels like. Thank you. May it be so. And that, with like a tiny piece of sage, this big, or rosemary, can do more for you than that formula of 15 different power mega super or whatever. Because if you're just like, nah, I'm just using it, I'm just going to use this up. It's like, if we look at our plants as our elders because they were here before us, they are the wise sages. I love that we're talking about this at the end of this sage call because they really are our ancestors and they are our protectors and the ones that nourish us and nourish everything, all life. So, would you go over to grandma and be like, Grandma, I want to use you for that, or not speak to her directly when she offers you some medicine, or like not say, hey, Grandma, I'm not feeling well, and then ask and see what comes up for you. What does she offer to you? Like what do you already work with and not realize that you do for dreaming too, that are plants that are already in your life that are ready to have that acknowledgement because they will talk back and they will often, the more specific, like with Kalia, I'll whisper to Kalia in my hand and whisper to her my request, my thanks, and then she whispers back for sure. Makes sense? That was a lot. Here's the piece. Cool. Well, we're coming to time. I want to mention that I offer free 15-minute consultations on my website. And you can also always book a session with me if you want to go deeper into customizing dream plans. It's harder to cover in our group call. But if you're like, ooh, I really want to get a plan for my herbs and my ritual, or you want to go deeper one-on-one and some of that mentorship, I'm available, and I'm available by email for free, anytime. I'll do my best to get back to you within like 24 hours. So if you're like, hey, you mentioned that herb, can you expand more about that? I'm happy to. I love talking about this stuff, if you can't tell. So any closing any closing thoughts, action plans, our missions this week is to work with some of these methods. I would love for you to practice interpreting a dream for yourself this week and for somebody else and for someone else, and see if you want to work with them to interpret yours. Like, play with that and notice in the synchronicities if and when people just tell you about their dreams. Because I know when I started to identify as the archetype of an interpreter, I'd be like at the grocery store and someone's like, I just had a dream last night, and you're like, interesting. All right. So notice when that comes up and ask people, ask kids. Kids are great for that. Last night with my niece, I was like, what do you want to, I was laying down with her, she going into bed. I said, what do you want to dream about tonight, lady? And she said, I want to dream of a dress design, a pretty gown design. And I said, cool, okay. And then this morning when she first woke up, I said, Lainey, did you dream about your dress design? And she said, oh yeah, I did. And I said, do you want to color what it is? She said, sure. So we sat down and we colored it. It's really cute. It's like a little short skirt with 2 pockets and like a side top, like one shoulder off. That was like green. It was so cute. I was like, dang, I don't want to wear that. But anyway, that invoking, because if we don't invoke it, it just goes to sleep. No pun intended. So those are the missions this week. Any other action plans or thoughts or visions for this week? I'll pass the piece in.
I think I just want to be more intentional. It's like I know all of this, right? A lot of these things I know, but I don't do. And so it's the doing, it's the action part that yeah, I just need to be more intentional around doing it and like really like holding myself to it. I think that's an important piece, is committing to it.
I hear that, and I'm happy to help hold you accountable to that as well by just being like, hey, are you doing that? Pass the piece back in. And I see Morgan is echoing that too, committing to the practice and sharing more frequently. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Oh, you're so welcome, Krista. So glad you're here. Krista and Sharon. So glad you can make it. Yay. Yes, and accountability buddies. Ah.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Krista. See you soon. Yay. Happy full moon. All right. Yes. Beautiful. I hope that you dream well this week and remember the ones that feel important and feel inspired to share. And we'll be in touch this week and meet again next week to explore the tracker, which is going to be so fun. So yeah, we'll just go a little bit early and have some nice deep rest tonight. And I can't wait to hear what happens. All right. Blessed be. There it is. Good night.
Good night.